Designing a website can be overwhelming if you're a beginner. So in this tutorial, I want to show you step by step how to build a website from scratch using WordPress. So let me show you the website that we'll be designing. So we are going to start off with the home page. So when I scroll down here, you can see we have a beautiful elegant hero area. I'll show you how to put this together. Over here, we also have our services section. So if I mouse over this, you can see we have this beautiful animation. Again, I'm going to show you how to create that. Over here, we also have an area where your visitors can add their email address to sign up for your newsletter. Now over here on the bottom, I also show you how to create a footer which applies across the whole website. Now let's take a look at our About Us page. Now this page is very important because this showcases what your website is about. So this time I decided to use a different effect called parallax. So as I scroll through here, you can see this information is disappearing and revealing information here on the bottom. So this over here is an image gallery. So when I click on it, it shows our image and we can cycle through these images. If you click anywhere here, it goes away. Now further down here, we also have this area where I show you how to create a video here with an overlay. Now our services page here was built using a pre-made layout. So you can see here it's very stylish. So I again show you step by step how to achieve this. Finally, we have our contact page here. So this page has our social media links, it has our address and also this form. By the end of this tutorial, you're going to understand how to choose your colors correctly. You're also going to know how to use fonts and also how to create a style guide. So this is a fully packed tutorial which has all the tips that I've learned over 10 years of designing websites all packed into this tutorial. The knowledge you're going to achieve in this tutorial is enough for you to start a career as a web designer. Now all the tools that I use will be listed in the video description below, and if you do purchase any of these products, I also have some bonuses and discounts for you. All right, let's get started. Let's kickstart our project here by choosing the right hosting. Now, hosting is very important because if you get this wrong, you're going to have a website that is going to give you headaches. I mean, I've done this before. I used to have websites hosted on a very bad hosting platform, and I used to spend nights trying to fix problems and all these errors that come with bad hosting. Now, the reason why I like SiteGround is because it's optimized to work really well with Divi. So this is going to make your website fast and super optimized. I have a link in the video description below. This is going to give you a 75% off discount. Plus, I'm also giving away my bonuses. If you purchase SiteGround using my affiliate link, I'm going to give you lifetime membership to Funnels to Income. There's a ton of courses there, and you will also get access to any other future courses that I create. The link to all of that is in the video description below. All right, so let's take a look at the plans here. So if I click here on View Plans, you're going to notice that we have quite a few here. We have the Startup, the Grow Big, and the Go Gig. The one I highly recommend is the Grow Big because it has unlimited websites. So there are going to be situations where you want to design so many websites. This one here is the best one. Next, we also have some features here which are really, really important. Now, one thing that I used to struggle with back in the day was backups. So you would find that if you have a website and something goes wrong with it, because I didn't have really good backups, I used to redesign the websites. That is super bad. So this is where we have this option here of daily backups. And this is why I really, really like SiteGround. We also have SSL. Now, SSL is very important if you decide to sell something on your website. This makes sure that your website is passing on secure information from credit cards. So free SSL is fantastic. So if you click here on Get Plan, you are going to get two options. If you want to register a new domain, you can choose this option here, or if you already have a domain, you can go with this option here. So either way, it works. So if you already have a domain name, like in my case, I'm going to say Funnels to Income. Now, if I click on proceed, this is now going to take me to a page where you are going to be required to enter your account information. So this information here is very important because this is how you log into SiteGround to control your information and to also set up WordPress. So this is where you want to add your email address, password, and you also want to confirm your password. Next over here, you want to add your client information. So in this case, I'm in the United Kingdom. So I'm going to put United Kingdom. And first name, last name. Now you don't have to add your company tax or VAT, but if you do have one, you can just add it here. And you also need to add all this information here. All right, so over here we have the payment information. This is where you add your account number and you also add your expiration date and year and your CVV code. Now, finally, we have this stage here which tells us about the package. You can see here is the Grow Big, and this is your $59.88 excluding VAT. So this is the best deal, and as I mentioned, this has a 75% off. The link to that is in the video description below. Now over here, we can just go ahead and confirm. And if you'd like to receive any information, you can go ahead and confirm that over here and then click on Pay Now. Now, once you've made the payment, you are going to get your credentials to SiteGround admin dashboard. This is where you can go ahead and install WordPress. Installing WordPress is just one click. You can just install the basic WordPress setup, and you're also required to set a username and password. This now will be for your WordPress admin dashboard. So make sure you make a note of that. So now let's say you've installed WordPress in your SiteGround admin dashboard. The next stage now is to take a look at the website. So over here is my brand new website. Mine is called Divi 2023. So now let's go ahead and log into our WordPress admin dashboard, because as you can see right now, this is a boring site. We really want to make this look really nice. So we need to enter WP-admin, hit enter. And now you want to add your username and password that you created in SiteGround. So mine here is MacAdmin, and I'm going to paste my password like that. And now I'm in my WordPress admin dashboard. What you want to do here is to just clean up this dashboard, because there's quite a lot going on here. So you want to click on dismiss here, and then you want to go to screen options and then uncheck all this. We want to make sure that when we log in, we have a clean dashboard. All right, so now everything is all cleared up. We are now ready to work on our website. So the first thing I usually do when I start working on a brand new website is to go in and start adding my pages. So I'm going to come over here and click on add new. So my first, in fact, before I do that, I need to close out of here. So my first page here is going to be a home. And then I'm just going to hit publish and then publish one more time. Okay, so our page has been published. At this time, or at this moment, we are not adding any content to our pages yet. We're just creating the pages. All right, so let's go back over here and add another one. Now you can see it's added here. So the next page here is going to be my contact page. Again, I'm going to hit publish. Publish one more time. Go back. So repeat this process until you've added all your pages. All right. So the next step now that we have all our pages, let's take a look here and see what they look like. So if I click here on view site, now, by the way, I'm viewing this on a new tab. You can see now that I have my menu over here. So the next step now is to go in and install our page builder. So the page builder I'm going to be using today is called Divi. I really love Divi. I've been using it for many, many years, and it's super, super powerful. Now, let me take you over here to this page so you can see its features. So if I come over here now, you can see you can design many, many websites. It also has a massive user base behind it. So this has also a ton of pre-made layouts, which means you can design so many websites super fast. So I'm going to come over here straight to the pricing so you can see how much this costs. The one thing I really like about Divi is they have a single price, which will give you unlimited websites. So if you want to choose for yearly access, this will give you updates for 1 year. This is only going to cost you $89, and you can design unlimited websites. But if you want to go for the lifetime license, which is what I highly recommend, for $249, you are going to get lifetime updates, and you don't have to pay for anything ever again. Any future updates will definitely be available for you. All right, so now that we've gone through the price, in my case, I've already gone ahead and purchased Divi. I have the lifetime license. I'm going to now come over here to my account and go to my downloads. Now I'm going to click here on Divi theme and download the Divi theme. Now I've downloaded it many times. This is why you can see Divi 9 here on the bottom. All right, so now let's go ahead and install Divi. So I'm going to come over here and we're going to come over to appearance and click on themes, click on add new, upload theme, and then I'm just going to drag and drop it here and then click install now. Now, the other way you can install it is by clicking on choose file and then navigating to where it is on your computer. All right, so now that this is installing, it's going to take a short while. And by the way, now it's installed. I'm now going to hit activate. Now, a lot of people just end here. Now, what is important is to go in and add your API key, because this is how you get your updates to your Divi theme and also access to support and your child themes. All right, so I'm going to come back over here and go to my account here. And in fact, it's right here. It's account, and we want to scroll down to API keys. So I'm going to copy it here like that. And then back over here on my site to add my API key, I want to come over here to Divi and then click on theme options and then go to updates. So I'm going to enter my username, and then for the API key, I'm going to go ahead and paste it and then save changes. All right, so now my theme is ready to go. I have all the tools that I need now for me to design my websites and get all the updates to Divi theme. So the next step now is to head over here to my dashboard, and then I'm going to come over here to appearance and click on menus. Now over here on menus, I need to create a brand new menu because we need to reference this later on as we're designing our website. And by the way, now that we've installed Divi, let's take a look at our theme. This is what we had before. So if I refresh this, you're going to notice now that we have this new layout and we have a new menu over here on the top. But we want to customize this because it has uncategorized and this is not in the order that I want. So let's create our menu. So I'm going to call this main menu and then click on create menu. Okay, great. So now my menu has been created. I want this to be located on the primary menu. This is our main menu on our website. Now over here is where I can select all my pages and add them to the menu. So I'm going to click here on add to menu, and these are all my pages. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this one here because it's a duplicate, and then drag them into position. So I want this one here on the top, and then contact needs to be the last one. All right, so this is the order of my menu. Now, if you take a look here, this is what it looks like. But now when I hit save menu and I come over here and refresh, there we go. So now this is what my menu looks like. All right, so the next step now is to create my color palette. Now, this is where a lot of designers miss this point. Color is very, very important, and choosing the right colors is also very, very important. So let me show you how to do this. So you want to go to colors.co and then click on start generator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with my base colors. So my main brand color. So I'm going to use these colors here as my starting point. So my main color, my brand color is going to be this color here, this violet color. So I'm going to lock it into place. And then I'm also going to come over here and choose the color I'm going to use for my backgrounds. So I'm going to come over here now to view shades, and I'm going to choose this very light shade over here. So this is going to be my main color here for my background. So I'm going to lock it into place, and then I'm going to use the space bar to continue looking for the colors I'm going to use in my design. My color I'm going to use for my call to actions is going to be this flame color here. So I'm going to go ahead and lock it. So now I have these three colors. This is going to be my main brand color. This is going to be my accent color, which is going to be my call to action. And then this one here is going to be the color I'm going to use for my backgrounds. So the next step now is to look for colors that I'm going to use for my fonts. So I'm going to go ahead now and cycle through my colors. So the color I'm choosing, or I'm looking for here, needs to be very dark because it's going to be used on a light background. Right, so I'm going to continue on, and if I get to something that looks really nice, I'm going to stop and then look for the dark shade from that. Okay, so let's go with this teal blue, but I'm not going to use this teal blue as it is. I'm going to come over here to shades and go for a really dark shade. So this now is what is going to work as my background, as my colors for my fonts. Now we have one more color over here. Now we can use this as white. It doesn't have to be a specific color. So for now, I'm just going to leave that. So what I'm going to do is take these colors now and add them into Divi, because this is very, very important. I want to be able to access these colors as I'm designing my website. All right, so back over here now to add my colors, I'm going to come over here to Divi and then click on theme options. So this now is giving me access to my color palette. So I'm going to start here with my first color. In fact, let me just drag this over here so it's easily accessible. So my first color here is going to be this one, which is going to be my text color. Come back and then paste it over here. Move on to my next color. Now remember, I said we needed white, so I'm going to leave white here. Move on to the next one and I'm going to replace that with this one here. So I'm going to copy that, paste it in place, move on to the next one. I'm going to copy this one here, flame, paste it into place, move on to the next one. And this is our main brand color. Copy that and paste it. So now that I have my colors, I'm just going to come over here and just add FFFF for white because I don't want to mix up my colors here as I'm designing. All right, so let's go ahead and save changes. The next step now is to establish my fonts and make sure that I have them in place because I don't want a situation where I have to keep on choosing fonts as I'm designing. So I'm going to go in now and create a brand new page, which is going to have all my presets. So I'm going to come over here now to pages and click on add new. And this page is going to be called style. Use Divi Builder. Now it's your first time. If it's your first time using the Divi Builder, you are going to get this main pop-up here. What I usually do is I just skip it because I've been using Divi for quite a while now. And this is the pop-up I'm talking about. I don't need to take the tour. I'm just going to say start building. So now that I've opened the theme builder, the next step is to add this design from scratch. And then I'm going to add a single column here. Next, I'm going to add a text module. Snap this over to the left. Just makes things easy for me. And over here now, I am going to start adding all my headings. So I'm going to start here with heading 1, go to heading 2, and heading 3. I don't usually go above heading 3. So this one here is going to be my submenus, but this is going to be under heading 4. So now let's label all this. I'm going to highlight heading 1 and make sure I map this to heading 1, go to heading 2, map this to heading 2, and then go to heading 3 and map this to heading 3. Now for my submenus, I'm also going to go in and set this to heading 4. The rest here is going to be my paragraph text. Now let's go ahead and stylize this. So the first one is going to be heading 1. I'm going to click on this paintbrush tool and define my font. So in my case, I'm going to use Poppins. But of course, in your case, you can use whatever font you need for your designs. Next, over here on regular, I'm going to set this to bold and I'm going to increase my size. So for this, I'm going to go with 56. Let's move on to the next one. I'm going to click on this little icon here for heading 2. Go to default, change this to Poppins. And for the font weight, let's set this to bold as well. So the previous one was 56. Now let's go with 48. Okay, I think 46 is better. Let's move on to the next one. So this one here is heading 3. Again, we're going to change our font to Poppins. Make this bold. And then over here now, we are going to set this to, let's go with 34. Now you can see I forgot to add my colors. I'm going to do that in a moment. Now for my sub menu, I'm going to make this Poppins, just like before. But this time I need to stylize this. I want to make this all caps. And I'm also going to make this bold. But for my letter spacing, I'm going to set this to, what should we go with? 6? Okay, let's go with 8. So 8 is going to be my letter spacing. And then finally over here on my body text, let's change this to Poppins as well. Select that. I'm going to change our size. 16. And let's also set our line height. Okay, 1.7 is fine. Now I might as well add my color. Now remember, I said my text color is going to be this color right here. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And you also want to do the same for the sub menus. Choose my color and I'm going to do the same for my heading. Heading 2. Heading 1. So my color here has been chosen. That's looking great. The next step now is while I'm here, I also want to add my links. So if I highlight this text here and make it a link, and let's set this as a blank link and hit enter, you're going to notice that it has this color here, but this is not what I want for my call to actions. So what I'm going to do is to change that. So I'm going to come over here to text and choose my links. So for my links here, my link here is Poppins and regular. I think we set it as 16. Okay. Should we have it underlined? No. And let's have this with our color here, because remember we said our call to actions is going to be this color right here. So that's going to act as my link color. All right, so let's go ahead and save changes. So far my text has been defined. So every time I'm going to start designing my website and add some text on my site, this is already going to be defined, saving me a lot of time. Now, while we're here, we might as well add our button. So we know we're going to be having buttons everywhere on our website. We might as well go ahead and design one and set it as a, oops, you know what? I forgot something very, very important. Let's go back into our text module here and make sure we create a preset. So let's come over here and create a new preset from current styles. So I'm going to call this site text. Assign this to default, and then I'm going to set this to yes, yes, and then save. So everything is all saved now. Let's test and see if this is working. So I'm going to click here on this plus button and add a text module and see if my paragraph text is going to come in as this. And sure enough, here's my paragraph text. So this means that everything is working okay. So let's get out of here. Now, I mentioned that we want to add a button in here because buttons are something that we're going to find regularly on our website. So let's go ahead and quickly create a button here, which we're going to use as a default. Okay, so let's search for a button here like that. So to customize the button, we're going to come over here to design button and then activate use custom styles for button. So the first thing I'm going to do is to add a background color. And this, remember, I said is going to work as my call to action. So I'm going to set that. And I'm also going to come over here on the border and select that. Now my text here needs to be changed. So I'm going to come back to the top and choose my text color as white. And then I'm going to, in fact, we don't even need to use white. We need to use one of our light colors here. That works fine as well. And then we're also going to change our font. So we're going to change this from the default to Poppins. So I think that looks great. We're not going to make this really fancy. Let's just keep this simple. Now over here on the default preset, I'm going to set this as a brand new preset. We're going to call this main button. Activate this and then set this as my default button and save. So we have our text, we have our button. The next step now is to go into our theme builder and create our header and footer. I know right now you'll be probably thinking, when are we going to design our website? So we need our header and footers first because right now this is not looking good. All right, so to do that, I'm gonna now come over here to dashboard. I'm gonna save and exit first because it won't let me just leave. Okay, so now we're back on our dashboard. So we want to come over here now to Divi, hover over here and click on theme builder. So we are going to start with our global header. So I'm going to click here and build global header. So now let's go ahead and click on this plus button to add our row. Okay, so for this, we're going to need our menu. Select that. All right, so this is our menu. Over here is where we add our logo. So I'm going to click on this plus button here to add our image. Now I think I have a logo on my desktop, so let's go ahead and find it. So I'm going to click on select files. So I'm going to go with this one here, Blogger Pro, upload image. So you can see here it's massive. So I'm going to come over here to design, layout. So I want this to be left aligned, which is great. And I'm also going to come over here to sizing. So this is where we get to adjust my logo width or even height. So let's go to height and reduce this all the way down until I'm happy with the height. And I think 46 will work great for this design. So while I'm here, I also want to take a look and see what it looks like on my mobile devices. So 46 is still fine. And over here now on the phone, I'm going to reduce this to 36. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now we have our text here that we need to go in and customize. So let's go ahead and do that. We're over here on our menu text. So for our menu text, we are going to go with our color here. So in fact, this is our active color. So it's going to be this one right here. And for our menu font, let's set this to Poppins like that. Great. Let's make it all caps. And let's choose our brand color here. Oops. Now over here, let's choose our brand color as our menu color. The size here is fine. I'm just going to add some letter spacing here just to make it easier to read. And do I want to make it bold? Yeah, this is something that you can decide, but you know what? I'm going to leave it as it is. So for my text alignment, I'm going to align it all the way to the right because I don't want this very close to my logo. So far so good. I'm going to save this. Now I'm going to go into my main section here and go to the background because I want to add a background color here, which is going to be this very light color. Remember that we chose from our color palette. All right, so that's going to be my color. So I'm going to save this for now because I can see that I have this white in the background. I need to get rid of it. So I just want to make sure that when I come over here, it's set to transparent. I'm going to save that. And then I'm also going to go into this one here and make sure on the background it's set to transparent. All right, great. So now that we have this, let's get rid of all the padding because I want to have a proper size on my header here. So I'm going to go to spacing. So for my margin, I'm just going to make sure this is set to 0 and padding is also set to 0. Now notice that I'm using this chain icon. This is going to make sure that I have the same padding both on the top and the bottom. So this was my menu settings. I'm going to save that. And now I'm going to go into my row settings and you can see here I have quite a bit of spacing. All right, so let's go here and set this to 0. And I'm going to do the same to the bottom as well. And for the margins, do the same and save. So all I have to adjust now is my section padding. So I'm going to come over here, go to spacing. So I want to start here with 1%. Okay, now it's making sense because the size has reduced. It's not as big as it was before. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to go ahead now and save. So that's going to be my heading now for my site. Let's go ahead and click on these three little dots here and save. My header now has been created for my site. I'm going to close out of here and save changes. So every time you want to come and adjust your header, you want to come over here to your theme builder. This is where you do all your changes. Now let's take a look at our website and see what it looks like so far. All right, so now we have our header here. So if I choose, let's say the About Us, we can see now that this is what has been chosen here on the top, which is fantastic. Now let's build our footer. So I'm going to come over here and add global footer because right now the footer that we have is not good at all. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to come over here, build global footer. All right, so I'm going to start here with a single column. And in this column, I'm going to add a divider. And let's give this divider a color by coming over here to line. And the color I'm going to go with is this very subtle color here. In fact, I can't really see it. So I am going to increase it a little bit, just like that. Okay. And save. Next, I'm going to add another row, single column. And let's start adding our text module here. All right. So what we're going to do is we are going to add our links. So first of all, I'm going to add my text, which says About Us. And then I'm going to add my links. So this is going to be, say, let's say, for example, home, services, contact. So the About Us is going to be set to heading 4, which is this style that we set initially. And then over here now, I'm going to highlight and add a blank link for now, but this should be a link that links to your homepage. Now notice the color that it has taken on over here. Let's move on to the next one. Set our link here. Move on to our contact. Add my link. Click OK. All right, so these are the 3 so far. I'm now going to hit Save Changes. All right, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my row settings and duplicate this a few times. Okay, so I'm going to do it 3 times. In fact, I'm going to do it 4 times. And I'll show you in a moment why. Okay, so this one here is going to be my logo. So I'm going to click on this plus button and add an image. So let's choose my image here, because that is my logo, and the size can be adjusted by coming over here to sizing. So let's come over here to our width, and we're going to set this to 68 because the height here didn't work. Let's hit save. And now we can get rid of this top bit over here. Okay, so that's just the logo. So what we can also do here is to add some social media icons. So let's add a few more. I'm just going to duplicate this and go into this one here. And instead of adding Twitter, let's look for Facebook or maybe even Instagram. Okay, Instagram is fine. We're going to hit back. And this one here is going to be Facebook. So click on the drop down. No, YouTube. Why am I saying Facebook? Facebook is already there. All right, so now that we have our icons, I'm going to hit save and save one more time. Okay, now over here, we can go in now and adjust this. And instead of saying about us, we can say our services or even just services. Okay, so this will be service 1. And this one here will be service 2. But of course, these will be your proper services. Okay, this one here will be service 3. And remember, we also need to add our links here. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do the second one. And the last one. So our footer is taking shape now. We're going to save. And we have one more here. Maybe we should add our contact information. How about that? Okay, so let's go in. So contact. And all we need to do now is to just add our address. Okay, so that's looking great. I'm going to save that. So that's our footer. Now we can also add the little copyright thing on the bottom here. So let's duplicate this. We need the whole thing duplicated. Drag this to the bottom here. Okay, so now we can add our text module. Now you can see here that it's a bit tricky to add my text module because this is in the way. To solve that, all you have to do is to click on the bottom here and go to your layers. So we open up our section and you can see here that we have all these rows. So we want this one here. So you can see this is the divider. Now let's click on this plus button and add our text module and select it. Now let's close out of here and go into this little dynamic icon here, because what we need is to add our current date. So before here, we're going to say copyright space and then designed by Mac. Now over here, we need to add a space, and for the date format, we can go for custom, and all we're going to add here is the year, or we can just add this little pipe here to distinguish that. That's pretty cool. All right, so let's center this. I'm going to come over here to design text, scroll all the way down here and center it. Now the size is a bit too big, so let's adjust that by coming over here to text size. So I think that looks great. I'm going to save this. Now there's a lot of space here, so I can get rid of it by just dragging the margin here like that. That's much better. All right, so let's save this, and that's our footer. So we've done our header, we've done our footer. So the next step now is the fun part, because this is where we get to build the content for our website. So let me close out of here now and make sure I've saved everything. So if I come here now, this is a footer. This is our header that we just created. Now this is the footer. If I refresh this page, this footer now is going to be applied across the whole website. How cool is that? So let's start by creating our home page. So I'm going to come over here to all pages and go to our home page, click on edit with Divi. So for this here, I'm going to build from scratch, and we are going to go with a 2-column layout. All right, so on the left here, I'm going to add some text. So let's add our text module. So we are going to use dummy text because typing this content here is going to really be a problem because my typing is really bad. Okay, so let's add our dummy text like that, and we're going to set this as a subheading. So I'm going to highlight it, come over here, it's heading 4 that I need, save. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. Click on this plus button, text. Okay, let's use our dummy text again. All right, so I'm just going to override all this. But in your case, you want to be adding here the text for your actual website. Okay, so you don't want to just go in and do what I'm doing here. So this here is going to be, let's say, heading 3, because we want people to really see this text that I'm adding over here. So I can see here we have a massive gap. That's not looking good. So I'm going to hover over here and get rid of that by just dragging it. So the final thing I'm going to add here is my call to action button. So I'm going to add my button module. Now, do you see how easy it is now to just add all my content here as I'm designing? So this could be contact me. I'm going to save that. And again, I'm going to reduce this text, this gap here like that. All right. So as I'm looking at this, I can see that this needs to be adjusted. So I want to go in and go to design, heading text. So this is heading 2, I think. Is it? Let's double check. Okay, this is heading 3. So on the line height over here, let's go with 1.2 and save. All right, so this part is done. The next step is to come over here and add our image. So let's search for our image module. It looks like I don't have any images here in my media library. So I have you covered. There's a website here that I use for my images. It is called unsplash.com. So this is where you want to decide what type of website your website is going to be. So mine here is just going to be like an adventure website. So I'm going to look for some images that I can add here. I'm going to go with this one here. Okay, so you click on the image, and then over here on the download, I'm going to go with the medium. So while I'm here, I might as well download some images, which I can use easily. Let me go with this one. So this is the process you want to go through to download all your images that you're going to use on your website. All right, so I think I have quite a few images here. Pretty happy with that. So back over here now on my site, if I click here, click upload files, select files, I'm going to go to my downloads folder, because that's where they all are. And I'm just going to go ahead and select them like that. Click open. So this is going to add all the 3 images in one go. All right, so the one I'm going to go with is this one here. All right, so now that I've added my image, you can see my hero area here is starting to take shape, which is pretty cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my first column here and add a bit of padding, because my text here is way too close to the top and I don't really like that. So I'm going to come over here to design, spacing, and I'm going to add a bit of padding on the top. So let's start with 4%. Let's bring this down a little bit, maybe 3. All right, save that. Yeah, that's much better. Now this main section here also needs to be changed. So I'm going to come over here and go to design, sizing, and for my minimum height, I'm going to go with 80 VH. Okay, so this just makes my main area here slightly bigger. And I'm also going to go to, in fact, we may even bring this down to maybe 70. Okay, and what I also want to do is to add a bit of spacing here at the top. So let's go with 4%. Padding at the top, and save. All right, so that's looking great. The next step now is to add some sort of design element to my image here. So I'm going to go to background and let's add background mask. In fact, before I do that, I need to add a background color. So this is going to be my color. Now remember, this is my main brand color. So now I'm going to come over here and add a design element. So you can see now over here, I have a design element. Let me choose the one that I want because I'm not a fan of this layer blob. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go with this one here and hit save. Yeah, I think that gives a nice design element to my image. And then over here, I want to make sure that my image here has rounded corners. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to the border and set this to 8. All right, so let me make this as a default here. So I'm going to create a new preset for my image, rounded corners, and I'm going to assign this to a preset. Yeah, so every time I add images, they're going to have those rounded corners. All right, great. So that's my main hero area here. Now let's move on and create another one. So I'm going to click here on this plus button, go to regular, and we're going to go with a single column here because we need to add the title for this section. So let's go ahead and do that. So this one here is going to be services or about us. So it just depends how you want to name this. So let's go with heading 4 and center it. All right, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to save. My sections here are pretty much similar in the background color. So I want to distinguish that by coming over here, going to the background and choosing my background color like that, and then save. All right, now let's move on and add more elements here. So I'm going to click on this plus button and choose my rows. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And in that row, we're going to add a blurb. All right, it's time now to design this. So I'm going to start by copying my text here. So that's the text. And I'm also going to add my title. So let's go ahead and find our title here and paste it here in the title area. Now it's time to design this because obviously this doesn't look great. But before I do that, I want to come over here to image and icon and set this to an icon. So I'm going to filter here and go to font awesome because I think these icons look way much better. All right, so that's going to be my first icon right there. And then now it's time to go to our design. So over here, I'm going to select my icon and choose my icon color. So my icon color is going to be, should we go with that? Yeah, I guess so. So as we design, we can, make our changes. But for now, I'm going to leave it as that. And our font here is going to be Poppins. And let's make this all caps and give this a bit of letter spacing. And let's make this semi-bold. Now, next, we're going to go to the text here. Just make sure it's centered. Let's set this to Poppins. Increase the size a little bit to about 15. And back over to this one here, we need to center it. So the size of my icon here is a bit too much. So let's reduce it by coming over here to icon width. So let's bring it all the way down to, let's say 42. I think 42 is a great size. The next step now is to give this a bit of breathing space and add a background color. So what we're going to do to achieve that is to come over here to our design, scroll all the way down until we find spacing. All right, so we're going to go with 4%, all sides. So right now we won't see a difference because we haven't actually gone in and given this a background color. So let's go ahead and do that by coming over here to our background and we're going to give it white. So now we have this subtle difference between the main background and our blurb. All right, so next let's give this some rounded corners by coming over here to design and going to border, and we're going to set this to 8. So this is looking great. I'm going to save this as a preset, but before we do that, save this as a default just in case we may want to use it in the future. So now I'm going to say create new preset from current styles and call this blurb. Okay, let's assign this to default. All right, so now that I have this all set, I can now save it and save one more time. But we want about 3 of these because 1 is not good enough. So let's go ahead and go into our row settings here and duplicate this 3 times. In fact, this should work. Now let's save that. Now all we have to do is to come into this one here and change the actual icon. Go to image and icon and font awesome. So let me find my icon here. I'm gonna go with that one. Save, come over to this one. And we are going to change this as well by coming over here to image and icon, selecting font awesome. All right, let's go with this one here. All right, so I think that looks great. All right, so as I look at this, I can see that my top padding here is not looking great. So I'm going to go back in here and make some changes. So I'm going to go to design, spacing, and let's change the top and bottom to about 10 and left and right to about 6. Okay, let's save and take a look at that. So I think this looks much, much better than the other two. So I can right click now and copy module styles and then hover over here, right click, paste module styles, right click, paste module styles. Let's save the whole page. The next step is to come over here to my section settings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to design, spacing, and give this a padding of 4% to the top and the bottom. All right, so the next step now is to add a brand new section. So I'm going to click here and add a regular section. So for this section here, we are going to have 2 equal columns. So on the left here, we're going to add a text module. I'm going to select that. And then I'm going to come over here to my dummy text and add a bit of text. So this is going to be some sort of a description accompanied by an image on the right. All right, so I'm going to paste here and let me also add capital letter here. So my sentence here starts well. And then on the top here, I'm going to set this to heading 3. Now it's already customized, so I don't have to go in and stylize it because we've done this ahead of time. All right, so now that I have that, I'm going to save. And then over here, we're going to need an image that accompanies that text. So let's search for our image module and select it and click here and find our image. So the image I'm going to go with is, should we go with that one? Yeah, maybe. I mean, either image here works. So I'm going to go with that one. All right, great. So now that I have my image, I'm going to hit save. So I have my description text here and my image. Now over here, just want to make sure that the space I have on my sections here is fine. And it definitely looks okay. All right. So as you can see, my page now is, it's complete. I have my main hero area here. I have my services, and I also have this area here, which talks about whatever it is here on the image. Okay, so that looks great. So all I have to do now is to save this and exit the Visual Builder. So that's our homepage. It's done. Let's just scroll through this one more time. A simple but effective homepage. So you can see the colors here are used wisely. We have our call to action color here. We also have our brand color. And when you scroll down here, you can see our brand color is also being used here. So all in all, you can see that it's been used about 30% of the time, which is a good use of the 60-30-10 rule. Okay, so our page now is complete. Let's move on to the About page. So I'm going to open this in a new tab and start working on this. All right, so for our About page, let us go and enable the Visual Builder here. So what we're going to do is we're going to build everything from scratch. So we are going to start here with a main hero area. So I'm going to close here and click on this plus button and choose full width this time. So I want a full width header. Right. So with our full width header here, I can choose an image that goes in the background. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to choose my image. So I'm going to come over here, click on this plus button. And this time I'm going to go with this one. So that's my image that I'm going to use. So this time we're going to add a bit of a style to this. We're going to add some parallax. And over here on the design, we're going to go to where is sizing. Okay, let's go to layout and let's make this full screen. So we have our parallax working here and we're on full screen. So I don't need the button here. So I'm going to come over here to my text. Okay, that's how you get rid of the button. So you just remove the text on the button here. So all I have to do now is to add my text here. So let's go to Lorem, copy that, come back over here and paste it. And then what we also have is the description. And I'm also going to add some text in here like that, copy it and paste it over here. All right, so now that we have this, we really want this nice and bold. So let's go in and stylize this. So I'm going to come over here to default and choose Poppins. Right, so we really want this to stand out. So let's increase So let's go with 44. Yeah, I think that works. We're going to capitalize this. Let's make it all caps. All right, so that's great. Let's work on the paragraph text now. Change this to pop-ins, and we're also going to make this semi-bold and increase the size. So let's start with 18. We may need to increase it a bit more. 22 works fine. Now, as I look at this, I can see that this is stretching way too much over there. So we may need to come over here to layout, center it. Will that work? I don't know, maybe. Or what we could do is we could add the text over to the left and then adjust the size. So if we come over here to sizing, not spacing. So for our content width, we can reduce this to 50 or 48. And then we can just customize this again one more time by adding some line height. Okay, let's reset this because sometimes it gives us a bit of a problem. So I think 1.4 works better. And I'm going to go back in here and increase the size a little bit to maybe 48. All right, so now this is really striking. It's nice, it's big. So what I may also want to do here is to see what happens if I add a drop shadow, which I think really separates the text from the background to make it easier to read. All right, so I'm going to save that. And wow, that looks really nice. I like that. So this section here, let's get rid of it. All right, so that's our main about us. So what I may also want to do here is to add some images, some sort of a gallery. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to click this plus button, go to regular, and I'm going to add a single column here. And this is going to be some text. And let's give this a title. All right. So the title I'm going to give this is going to come over here. And I'm also going to set this to heading 4. Excellent. So now our styling for our main header areas is going to be pretty much the same. So I'm going to center that and then save. Next, I'm going to add some images to this. I'm going to click on this plus button, add my single column. And in here, we're going to add a gallery. There we go. Select that. So at the moment, we have these 3 images. So for my design, I would like to have about 4 images. So I'm going to come over here and let's download a few more to make our gallery look nice. So why don't we go with perhaps this one here. All right, so let's go ahead and download it. Okay, there we go. It's downloaded now. So back over here, I'm going to add some more images, drag and drop it here. So that's my 4th image. I'm going to select all of them and then hit select. So it's important that you select all the images that you want to add in here. So now that I have all my images, there's a few things that I can do here. I can set my image count to 4 so that I know definitely I need 4 images. And the order, I just leave it at default. You can leave it at random if you want. Now let's go over here to our elements. So show pagination, no. And then show title and caption. I don't want to do that either because the titles here are really ugly. So people can really see that these are my images, which is great. Okay, so with that set now, I can head over now to design, layout. So making sure that this is a grid, because you can also make it a slider if you wanted to, but I would prefer to have this as a grid. Okay, so let's set this to grid. Now on the overlay, at the moment, my overlay color is this white. Ideally, we want to have a color from our branding over here. So I'm going to use one of my colors here as my overlay color. For my overlay icon, I want to use this very light color here. And for my overlay background, it's going to be this blue. But what you're going to notice is it's going to cover everything. So what you want to do is to come over here. In fact, you want to click here and reduce this a little bit so you can have a hint of the image. A little bit more. Yes, I think that's perfect. And then over here, you can choose whatever icon you need. So let's go with this plus. So now I have all that set. And I'm going to save. So that's my gallery. You see, it's not that fancy. It's just pretty much simple, straightforward. So if you want to do a few more adjustments, you can come over here to the row settings, go to design, spacing. In fact, you want to go to sizing and then use custom gutter width, reduce the space a little bit. I usually like this at about 2 and then save. Okay, so that's our gallery area. So you can see our page now is really starting to take shape. So this is our about page. Now, if there's any more content that you may want to add here, you can always go ahead and add it again in a new section. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to click here regular section. So for this one here, let's add 2 columns. Right. So what I'm going to do now, because we haven't really added a video on our pages, so I'm going to add a video here and show you how to add videos to your site. There we go. So that's going to be my video right there. Now let's add an image overlay to that. So I'm going to come over here to design, overlay. Okay, the overlay is fine. So we may need to add our image first by clicking here. So let's use this as our image overlay. Right, so the button here is coming in too heavy. Let's go to design, play icon, and let's reduce the size. So to reduce it, you want to come over here to use custom icon size, and then just reduce that to about 44. Yeah, 44 usually works really nice for me. I'm going to save that. And to distinguish my backgrounds here, I'm going to give this a background color. So I'm going to come over here, go to my background, and let's give this a very light color like that. All right, so that's looking great so far. Now over here, to balance this, I need to add some text. So let's add our text here to describe what's happening on the video. Okay, so let's copy our description text here like that. And we're going to add it over here to the dummy text. Right, so all I have to do now is to set this to heading 3. And let's capitalize this N. Excellent. So this now has balanced my design. Over here, I have my image gallery. And I also have my video here. Now, if you wanted to add your own video over here, all you have to do is to go back. You want to delete this, and then click here on add video. So now you can say insert from URL, go to YouTube. All right, so I have my video URL here from YouTube. Here it is. Insert into post. There we go. So now, oh, in fact, while we're still here, why don't we go and give this some rounded corners? I'm going to go to border, give this some rounded corners. Let's go with 8. Great. And let's set this as a default as well. Okay, and let's assign this to default and save. So this is going to be applied pretty much across the whole website so that we have consistency throughout. So I'm really happy so far with the progress. So let's save this. The next page we're going to work on is going to be our contact page. So let's go ahead and save this one here, and let's move over to our contact. But notice that the design that I'm doing here is very simple, very easy to follow, very easy to read. And that is very important in design. Okay, now let's move on and work on our contact page. So I've opened this in a new tab. Let's go ahead and click on Enable Visual Builder. And for this, I am going to build from scratch. So the first thing we're going to do here is let's go with a single column and add some text. So here we're just going to give this a title of Contact Us. So again, let's set this to heading 4 and center it. Great, let's save. Now let's add another row by clicking here, 2 columns. So on the left here, we're going to have our contact form. So to make this really work with the rest of the website, we need to go in and customize this. Right, so let's start here with the fields. So fields background color, let's go with our color here that we have on our color palette. And our fields text color, we're going to go with that. And our fields focus color, I'm not really going to spend so much time on the focus. And the text color, let's use this on the fields focus text. Okay, so now let's head over to our font. We want pop-ins here. Okay, that's great. Now let's adjust our size a little bit. Let's go with 16. And also, why don't we go to our fields padding and just add 10, top and bottom. So obviously we can see 10 is not working here. So you might as well just increase it to about, say 20. So now that gives it a bit of space, which makes it look much better. Okay, so I think that looks great. Now let's work on the button. So I'm going to come over here. Activate, use custom styles for button. And for our button text color, it's going to be that. Now let's go to our background, and it's going to be this call to action color here, like that. And then we also want to change our font to Poppins. select it. All right, so now our submit has been updated. We also want to change this capture font to Poppins. So this just makes the whole page look uniform, because you don't want a situation where we have different fonts, different sizes. It doesn't look great. So again, we're going to set this to 16, because remember, that's the size we used over here. And for our color, let's set our color. So that's looking great. Now I can save this. Now over here to the right, we can add our text. So we can just add our address here. So this needs to be your address. So this is in London, UK. So we might as well add a phone number. +44 is the country code. So the rest now can be deleted. So what you may also want to do here is to just bolden the phone number here, just to make it a focus. There we go. All right, so that looks great. That is our contact page. Now, you may also want to add some social media here. So let's add our social media follow. I wish I had saved that bottom one here as a preset, so I can add it over here. But you see why it's important to add our presets. Okay, so we said Instagram here, didn't we? Instagram, and there we go. And that other one here is going to be YouTube. So I'm going to come over here, go all the way down, select YouTube. So what you want to do is to add the links. So this would link to your YouTube account like that. Go back, go to Instagram, go to link, and then add your link to Instagram. So once you've added all your links, pretty much this now is going to connect to all your social media places. Okay, so that's our contact. So we have our basic form here. We also have our information, phone number, which is pretty cool. All right, so let's save this. So what we're going to do next now is to design our services page, but this time I do not want to design this from scratch. I want to show you how to use the pre-made layouts. Let's go ahead and do that. So let's open services in a new tab, and then I'm going to click on Enable Visual Builder. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to start this with the pre-made layout. Now remember, in the beginning, I did say that you need to add your API key. If you don't, you won't have access to the pre-made layouts. All right, so I'm going to say browse layouts. Right, so when it comes to choosing our pre-made layout, it doesn't really matter what this industry is, because I don't want you to think of the layout pretty much represents a type of industry. Now, what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, I come over here on this portfolio layout pack. If I click on this, it shows me the different types of designs this layout has on this page, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot use this for any type of website. So now we are looking for our services. So we can come over here. Let's look at the services on this architectural page. Okay, this doesn't look very exciting. I can go back. So you can just keep looking here until you find something that you think works for you. So I'm going to go with this one here and delete the parts that I don't need. So let's use this layout here. So this now is going to import presets. Now, I don't want to import the presets. I just want to import the design, because the presets in this case don't really need them, because it's going to mess up with my existing presets that I've been building throughout this design. Okay, so we are almost done downloading all this. And here is our design. Okay, pretty cool, but there's a lot I need to get rid of here. So let's start deleting what I don't need. So first of all, this has to go, this section here. And what do I have here? Don't really like this too. Now these are testimonials, I think. That's not too bad. We can leave these, or we can recreate our own. So I can see here that this is not very exciting for me. However, I can go in and stylize these a little bit. So let me go back in here, go to design, and for the text here, okay, that's aligned. Title text, we're going to change this to Poppins. We're going to align this to the left. We're also going to do the same over here. The text over here is fine. It's Poppins, but we're going to align this to the left as well, because it just looks much better this way. All right, now the colors. We want to make sure that we add colors that work with our branding. So now I've selected my color. Let's save this, and then we are going to now copy this style or extend it. Now we haven't used extend. All right, so we're going to say extend throughout this section. Okay. So this is just going to update all my other blurbs. As you can see now, everything is pretty much looking great. We have our service details here, but I can see that the layout doesn't look great. So I need to recreate my own style. So I'm going to click over here and go with 2/3, 1/3 like that. Okay. So I am just going to drag this over here like that. Then in here, let's add an image. So I already have some images in here. So which one should we go with? Okay, let's go with this one here. So I have my image now, and I also have my text. So what we can do now is just drag this text into position. So I want to have 3 of these. I don't want to have too many. Okay, so these are our 3 services. So I'd set this to 2/3, 1/3. I think that's going to work okay. So for this titling here, I don't think this is working. So let's get rid of it. And we are going to use this text instead. In fact, let's get rid of this too and make this a single column. Now in this single column, let's add our text module. So ideally, we want to give this some context. So back on our services, let's paste this like that. We're going to center it. And then let's call this our services. Okay. Now this text here, let's set this to paragraph 4. So how is this looking? So there's a lot of spacing here, a bit too much. So we may need to go in and fix this. So you can see here, there's a lot of margin. So I'm going to reduce this like that and then do the same over here. Let's reduce this as well. Right. So this now reads much better. Over here, things don't look great because the text is going way too wide. So let's go in and go to sizing and set the width. Okay, I think if we go with 70, that should work fine. I'm going to center this, save that. All right, so we're getting somewhere now. So we have our services here, and we also have our title to the page, which is fantastic. Okay, what do we have here on the top? So we have this image here going into this area here. Okay, it also has a call to action, which is not too bad. So what we can do now, let's customize this top bit. So I'm going to go into my settings, go to the background, delete that. And the pattern here is super ugly. Oh my goodness. Let's delete that. Right. So what we're going to do is we're just going to have a background color here. Let's go with this. This is our main brand color. So that should work fine. Save that. Okay. So we're going to change this text altogether. Okay. So let's call this what we do. Set this to heading 1. Now we don't really need this call to action here. It's too early in the process. Delete that too. So all we have is the image. So this image now, we need to change this to our own image. So let's go with this one. Save that. Now our font here doesn't look like it's Poppins, is it? Let's double check. Let's go over here to our design, heading text. Yes, it's not Poppins. Let's add our Poppins like that. Okay, that's much better now. We're going to change this from heavy to bold. 60 is fine. Okay. So now we can save that. So we have our image here and we have a bit of text to go with the image. So we're going to leave that as it is. I'm not a fan of these testimonials. Let's get rid of that. All right. So let's save that. Okay. That's pretty cool. All right. So we're going to save this. And now we're going to do our final touches. So over here on the header, I think we can do a bit of work here. The text doesn't look great. I want to go in and make this bold. So let's go to our menu here and change this from regular to semi-bold. I think that looks much better. Save that. And also I want to make my header sticky. So before I do that, I'm going to come over here to design, spacing, and let's go to 0.9 or 0.8. Okay, I think that works. To make it sticky, I want to come over here to advanced, scroll effects, stick to the top, save that. Okay, now let's save the whole page and see how this is working. I'm going to refresh this. So it's definitely sticking to the top, which is pretty cool. Now, you know what we can also do here is we could make it a bit smaller while we're scrolling. So let's head over now to our theme builder and let's go in and set this. Right, so to achieve that, we can come over here to our section settings. We're going to go to our background. So you notice now we have this little icon here, the sticky icon. So on sticky now, we can actually change this background to whatever color we want. So on sticky, I want to say, you know what, let's use that. So it's very dramatic, I know. So we're going to use that as our background when sticky. Now on the design, we're going to go to spacing, and on sticky, making sure you select sticky here and it's selected here. We are going to reduce the size here to 0 and then save. Now over here, we're also going to do the same. We're going to go in, and for our menu text, we're going to come over here to design, menu text, and for our sticky, making sure you select it. We're going to select that. So now for the sticky, we're going to change the color, change it to that, and active color for the sticky can be that. So that's fine. Now let's go to spacing and see if we have any settings here. Okay, so that should be fine. Let's save that. Save the whole thing. Okay, now let's test this and see if this is working. So I'm going to refresh the page and look at that. The sticky now works. Now there's a few styles that we may want to add here, and that is if we hover, we can have this expand a little bit. Or if we hover over here, we can have a drop shadow. You know, these are the sort of things that we can add if we want to make this a bit more fancy. But if you want me to show you, I can just quickly go ahead and show you how to do that on the blurbs. Okay, so we are going to enable Visual Builder here. So with our Visual Builder open, I'm going to go in here and select my row. So what I need is design. So we also have animation effects here. So these are the animations that you can have when this opens. So I don't want any animation here. And on the transform, I want to zoom in. Okay. So I'm going to click on this little icon here and then click on hover. So on hover, I want to increase the size a little bit. So we are going to go with 106% on hover. Okay. That's great. So we're not done yet because we also need to add a border or a drop shadow, sorry. So the drop shadow I want to add is this one. So with this one selected, we want to make sure that this is appearing on hover, okay? So this is 18 pixels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here and say on hover, it's 18, but on normal, it's 0. Okay, do you see that? We're going to come over here. We're going to say vertical shadow. Over here, it's fine at 2 pixels, but on the desktop, we're going to add it to 0. There we go. So let's try this. Not sure why that went away. All right, so let's save this. So I'm going to apply all this across this section. So I'm going to right click and copy module styles. Okay, let's paste it. Can't see everything. In fact, you know what's even easier is to just right click, extend blurb styles to this section. Okay, so if I extend all those styles, it means if I save this page now, all this is going to have the same effect. All right, so let's exit the Visual Builder now. So we're going to scroll down. Now notice what happens when I hover. Pretty cool. So these are the sort of animations that we can have on our site. Now let's say you want to make this clickable. What you want to do is to enable Visual Builder here. Okay, so let's go into the actual module, and then over here on link, you can just add your module link. I'm just going to add a blank one. Okay, pretty cool. So there you have it. That is how you design a website from scratch using Divi. So this has been a step-by-step process. If you like this tutorial, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want me to design any other tutorials, just let me know in the comments box below and I will do my best to do them. Until next time, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.